the cops on me. On a mission to be champs since they let me free.
Prepare for combat, my adversaries crumble. Face it, I got a reputation for damage. Busters get ready to rumble. They lock me in a cell, have me trapped in a living hell. Though not guilty, I'm still in jail. Brother, I serve my time like a soldier. Maintain composure. My shadow boxing the fight to the death, busting boulders. Every boxer with a pair of gloves. Best give up love. Here's a man from the makings of a thug. A lethal weapon, mind sharp. And in my heart, there's a wish to shake the world with the flurry of my black fist. Now once a high school dropout, now I'm the $1 million champ. Who's the next to get knocked out? Straight out of Brooklyn and worldwide.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Cheap Seats Boxing Show. We doing a half. This is your boy JP, rocking with the best show on the planet. Okay, here's the thing. Follow us at Cheap Seats Boxing Show. You know, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Just follow, subscribe, and enjoy the show. We got to get right to it because it's going to be a sparring session, so that means it's a shorter show. So let's talk about a little thing that's going on right now. Boxing, and we've talked about, the difference between prize fighting and pride fighting, which means, people are trying to make good mega fights or good paydays without having good competition. So the problem with that is this. Because in recent news, you saw that Anthony Joshua might have to have mandatories after his fight with Povetkin, which pushes off the Deontay Wilder fight. And he's going to fight Tyson Fury is the way it's looking, right? Here's the thing. You see a lot of fights happening that are past due. Same thing with this the Triple G Canelo fight coming up. All these build-ups. We need to build up to a fight. We need to, get the most money out of this fight as possible. And if you look at the way this stuff is going, these fights aren't really selling like people thought they would sell. And what is the reason for that? Because you're not striking when the iron's hot. You see, if you take on the challenge and you strike while the iron's hot, you take a high risk, high reward. You build a reputation, which builds anticipation, which builds a fan base, which builds a hero, which builds a quick villain to come in the mix, which builds great paydays because people either want to see you win or they want to see you lose. But what these guys are doing they're messing up the good fights. Because anybody who's a music fan, like I'm a big music fan. You remember when artists would come out and they have a great album, they new on the scene, it's hot, and then they take forever for the follow-up album. Forever. And then it's like, it's just, then the anticipation, is it going to be good? Is it really going to be worth it now? And then the artist gets all complacent and is like, this album's got to be perfect because I took forever to make it. This is how these fights look like they're being made. They're past the window of the public's interest because you waited too long to sign the papers. And I get business. I get, these guys want to be compensated for what they're doing because they're out here putting their lives on the line. And I get some fights can't be made because of all the politics and paperwork as quickly as others will hope. But the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because it said 2020. You see how 20 is 2018. And the Joshua thing was talking 2020. And here's the problem with that. This is sports. You have a short window to make a lot of money. Think even the thing with Anthony Joshua, I like him. I think he's a cool guy. Really do think he's a cool guy. But you can't make those Klitschko paydays if you keep ducking Klitschko risk or Klitschko-esque risk. You know, there are fighters that we love, and there's a difference between a guy that is a great fighter who we really are not supporting because he's not as entertaining or he's not as much of a spectacle. Like, I like Terrence Crawford and I like Mikey Garcia. They got that workman energy. You get that workman, I'm going to come get you and we're going to handle this energy. Errol Spence, the same way. But I feel people duck those guys because they know they're going to get hurt. So, but then you have people who entertain you whether you love them or hate them or just have star power. Lomachenko, star power. But he takes risk. Sometimes and I don't care if it's calculated because his risk seems to be calculated. But I don't care if you're taking calculated risk or just straight up square, fair, one-on-one, you bring your best, I'm bringing my best risk. You got to take the risk. And this is what's going on in boxing, where we're not rewarding the fighters who are taking a risk. Because I want to say Alexander Usyk and Tony Bellew might be getting at it because we're only looking at the welterweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. The guys who are in the mix and all these other weight classes are not getting credit because these guys are actually taking the risk because they have to, because they want to be household names and stars. But these household divisions that we're accustomed to right now aren't really taking a risk. Oh, they're sitting on these opportunities. And as a fan, that bothers me. Because sports is a small window. It's a short window for the athletes. You got to make your money. I'm never going to disagree with you guys making your money. I'm never going to do that. But what I am going to say is this. We've seen in recent times where guys that thought they were making good long-term business decisions, and if they would have made those short-term, high-risk, high-reward situations, they probably have more money now than they have. Win or lose. We've seen guys lose belts. We've seen guys wait out competition to the point that they're irrelevant holding belts. We've seen guys put off big mega fights to the point that you got to sell them as a mega fight, but now you don't want to tell nobody that the numbers look horrible because people are like, man, you made me wait too long for this. We've seen, and I know people will keep following that Mayweather-Pacquiao motto where if we can keep the fans waiting for 39 years, it'll work. But no, that was a different situation. They actually tried to make the fight happen twice before that, and it fell through. So, you guys aren't, this current era of fighters is not trying to make these fights happen like that and picking the next best option. These guys are just putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, because even say the Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua situation, when people look at it, they're going to say he's ducking. You get what I'm saying? He's ducking. That's not, there's no way to get around that. And, if you're Anthony Joshua, I'm protecting my money. Okay. But here's the issue. And I'm just using their situation as a scenario because this is the brand new news in a sense. Even if Anthony Joshua would have fought Deontay Wilder and got knocked out, right? Because I still pick Wilder to win that fight. I'm just going to be honest. He would still be the second best heavyweight in the world. So whether it's an immediate rematch that's going to make great money, because I think they both have the heart of a champion. So nobody is going to just back down in that fight. You get what I'm saying? The rematch would have made great money. And on top of that, when you put people like Tyson Fury and Luis Ortiz into the mix, you kind of keep a four-way thing going where people will be like, well, if these two guys aren't fighting, what about these two things? Because styles make fights, matchups make fights, but in this case, personalities make fights. You got really 4 good personalities that can sell a fight. You got 4 good people who are threatening to each other. Whether it's, they can generate interest with their antics, whether it's their power, if it's their skill set, if it's their star power. You have the opportunity for a group of guys to make a gang of cash in 2 years instead of for this mandatory thing going on here, right? And this has been going on in boxing for a little too long now. And me and Angelo talked about this years ago when we were talking about the PBC, and he was skeptical about the roster and how Al Heyman did things, and I was like, nah, I kind of like the way Al Heyman does things, but I put the onus on the fighters being scared to fight. They didn't want to put themselves out there. I give people like Adrian Broner problems because of his antics and attitudes, but the one thing I can say about him is he ain't willing to take the risk to take a loss. He ain't that. If he gonna look, my name's out there. If I win, I'm the man again. If I lose, well, I'm gonna get paid. See, these other guys are just like, I'm scared. Come on, man. You got to get over that. You're a fighter. Guess what happens? At the end of every fight, there's a winner and there's a loser. But you're a prize fighter at that. Guess what happens if you entertain? You can get paid. That's what it's about. I don't want to see you guys not go home to your families. I don't want to see you guys not have your faculties together when it's all said and done. I really don't. But I do want to see you guys maximize your opportunities. And we're talking about credible threats here. We're talking about, like, I fully expect if somebody gets knocked out in this Triple G Canelo fight, I fully expect Charlo to be in the ring. That's what I fully expect. That's how I look at it. Or if it's a close decision, I expect a three-peat, a trilogy rather, because that's necessary. But the problem is, everybody remembers how long it took for these fights to happen. Everybody remembers the drug failure and all the drug test failure and all that shenanigans. And this is why these fights keep falling apart. This is what keeps losing the fans' interest. People want, and people want entertainment. People want good fights. People probably surpass you, or they're going to give you more of a problem than you expect to get. Hungrier, sometime more skilled fighter, the fighter who can study you more, because now they don't have to beat the competition you have to beat per se. And they can study you and have your number, because that's just how fighting is. Some people, if you watch a person long enough, you can figure them out. If you're able to withstand their attack or their skill set, you can counter that with something. You can frustrate people. Age keeps catching up with these guys. The inevitable of maybe you just catch them with the right shot at the right time and they just can't handle it catches up with them. The money that Maidana made in those 2 fights, because he was like, hey man, this is an all or nothing, high risk, high reward. I got nothing to lose. If I win, I'm the man. If I lose, I get paid. If I'm competitive, I get a rematch. I get paid more. Well, what's the lose in this? And we're talking about, people who are the best. Because if you challenge yourself and you're the best and you want the best, if somebody beats you, I know, some us boxing fans are fickle. I'm not gonna sit here and act brand new about that. Boxing fans, you could beat, you can beat God on Monday and you're the man, and you could lose to a guy who's unknown on Tuesday, and people are like, oh, I'm done with him forever and a day. That doesn't make sense. We're fickle like that. That's horrible to a degree, but that is also part of the problem with it. But that's the rough side of fans. The other side of fans, when we love you, we love you. Like, hey man, you lost, that's all right. You still champ. Every boxing fan knows this. If we love a fighter, we still call them champ, whether they're actively fighting or they're retired. They're always gonna be champ. They're always gonna pique our interest. We're always gonna watch them. We're always, if they're commentating, we're gonna listen to their commentary. And that's one of the issues that these fighters are not taking into consideration, because if you take these high risks and you go for the gusto, you can be revered by your fans and take that and retire into commentary. This is why Roy Jones does commentary. This is why, Chris Bird was doing commentary. A lot of the young fighters like Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, every now and then you see these guys doing commentary, and it's great because now you're getting, the analysts and the fighters in the same space, right? So it's ushering in, a expert opinion from an actual expert who was actually in there. But to be able to be revered like that, you gotta be able to get these, to get the fans to respect you. And this is part of the problem with why people fall off of bandwagons with certain fighters, because we can't respect how these fighters get down. And the crazy part about it is, it's like you building these fights up, but you tearing them down at the same time. And then you're like, oh man, it finally happened. Aren't you people excited? And the people are like, no, we're not. Because even, like I said earlier, using the Mayweather-Pacquiao motto, everybody watched the fight. Everybody wanted to fight. They made it happen quickly because, we got to get this together. The stars lined up and everything. But when the fight was over, what one of the complaints was? Man, 5 years. It was 5 years late. But because both of the fighters were still at a premium, everybody wanted to still see that fight. And that's the other thing. It's not a guarantee you guys are going to be at a premium when you make these fights. Floyd was at a premium because he was undefeated and unbeatable. He was the bad guy and the villain. Everybody wanted to see him lose. Manny was at a premium because no matter what, people felt like he was the style and the good guy that can beat the bad guy, Floyd. So everybody was willing to, the losses didn't count. This is part of having a good guy, bad guy, mold and model. Everybody we need a hero, we need a villain. They don't really have to be real heroes and villains, but we need somebody to fit the archetype. And now we're building these fights. You have no hero, you have no villain. You just have people who are putting off what people feel like is the inevitable, but what keeps happening is life catches them. Other fighters take their spot. They get injured. They get suspended. You know what I'm saying? Car wrecks. We've seen all kinds of stuff happen. You become irrelevant overnight because people start to remember all of the shenanigans that went on with you prior to this mega fight, and they just turned off by you now because you took too long. And this has got to be rectified in the sport, because to have so many great fighters, you're torpedoing certain things in this era. Like, I think right now the welterweight division is coming to an end. So you're going to need a new division. The middleweights, maybe. But it's the heavyweight, middleweights, and these lightweights are going to come up. Because the welterweight division in particular, and it's not about Floyd and Manny. And it's still got great talent with Spence, Crawford. I'm going to like this Porter Garcia fight, even though that's too long to be made. The thing about it is, when you look at 147 in particular, you look at a division where you had a bunch of names that didn't want to fight and they should have. And people are looking at it like, I hope Spence and Crawford, unfortunately, when you're in a division that is not at the forefront of boxing, now you're going to need some either excitement or some characters. Because you other divisions could take over with excitement and character. This is why Lomachenko has his star power, because he's a star, This is why we think like a fighter like Inoue. Y'all keep playing, he gonna have a takeover. Progress. And I'm gonna support fighters like that. I think other fans are gonna support fighters like that. I think it's like pulling teeth now to get you to support these other fights, because we don't look at these other fights as we don't look at them as entertaining as they could be or should be, because they keep being put off, And nobody, and just like as I brought up earlier about music, what happens when an album takes too long? Other albums come out. This is how people get flushed out. Like, oh man, that was great, but these other 5 albums came out while waiting on this one to come out. So unless they gonna top that, whatever. And some of these same, people struck while the iron was hot and they made another album. With the NFL protests, you're going to say people who say they're going to not watch football. I don't believe them, but they said they're not going to watch football. So guess what? Who's right in the mix with football then in that same time period? Boxing and MMA. So if people were turned off by NFL protests, well, if we want to watch some contact, why not watch some boxing? And if you have these great matchups, you get, new casual fans who are protesting not watching the NFL. And you get fights every week, every month, just like, the NFL. And people are like, well, 2 hours is 2 hours. Money is money. More eyes is more eyes. More fans is more fans. So we got to figure this out, because to a degree, just as a commentator, we do have an issue with this from time to time. Like, man, this is getting ridiculous. But we're not gonna go away from boxing. We love it. We love it. Let's just be real. We love it. So, this is a quick sparring session. So follow us on all the platforms. I hope you enjoy the show. We'll be back next week. We love all you guys. So this is where the fighters fight and the fans commentate, and we do it just like that from the cheap seats, because we ain't buying no tickets, goddammit. Peace.
Please believe that I'll never be shamed again. Again, I'll be the next heavyweight champion. Call me crazy, but no one can fake me. I'm the product of the projects, lost and crazy. Throw your hands up, Mr. Bruno. Ride, Big Mike Tyson about to brutalize that ass tonight. No hesitation for the whole nation. I'll beat that ass so bad I'll probably violate probation. Through demonstration as I strategize information. Intensive